In today's show, Lamar Hurd from Trailblazers Broadcasting joins the program, and we talk about the youngsters, the first 19 games of the season, and the defense. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Tell your friends to do the same. Make it your first listen as Locked On Blazers, your team every day. Today's show, a super duper fun one. Lamar Hurd from Trailblazers Broadcasting is here. Going to pick the brain of one of the smartest dudes watching the Blazers basketball every single night. Before we get into that, a little bit of news here. It's actually two pieces of news here, but one I want to cover up top. Jeremy Grant officially in concussion protocol. Unclear if he will play in the Blazers' next game. That's on the road against the Golden State Warriors, but the Blazers officially announced today that he's in concussion protocol. Just scary stuff. JG has dealt with head trauma and concussion symptoms, or just straight having a concussion twice last season. So to be back in it, it's scary stuff. You never want anyone to be injured in any way, but brain stuff is obviously uniquely scary. So we don't have any information beyond he's in concussion protocol. If I had to guess, I bet he won't play Wednesday. He apparently did not practice today with the Blazers when they held practice, but well, I will keep you updated here. That's a good thing about a daily podcast. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Who did practice, though, is Anthony Simons. And I want to talk about the return of Anthony Simons and the youngsters and a whole bunch of other folks. And who better to do that with than Lamar Hurd? Lamar, welcome to the program. How you doing?
Past first point guard. I'm doing well. I hope you are too, man. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, I know that traditionally you are kind of a pass first point guard. That's like maybe your general role. But on this, it's like, as you age, you got to just play up a couple spots. Like we're a score first wing on here. Like we need to run. We need you to dominate the ball and score in this lineup. Okay, this is like I've coached some youth basketball teams, and I've said, listen, Joey needs to touch it on most possessions. Okay. Joey needs to touch the rock. We need to get the ball he needs to get the ball. We need Lamar to touch the ball on these possessions because we need to score. Anthony Simons returned to practice today. Chauncey Billups told assembled media that he was hopeful that Ant would be back. What do you think that means for the Trailblazers? We don't have to get into the nitty gritty of who starts and who doesn't, but what does it mean just for like the balance of this team?
I think it means more excitement and intrigue, because what we've seen so far this season is that when the team doesn't doesn't struggle to score the ball, they are competitive in pretty much every game. And each game is truly winnable. And so now they bring back their most dynamic scorer, maybe their best shot creator in Anthony. And that changes a lot of things offensively. And I think Anthony is ready. He came into the season saying he's ready to get the label off of him that he can't defend. Right. So if we see an Anthony Simons that's determined to defend and find success in that area, which I do believe he has shown improvement in different areas of his defense each season, the more he's gotten to play. If we see a defensive Anthony Simons that hasn't lost a step offensively to go along with what the rest of this team is providing, I'm super intrigued to see what does that look like, because when I think of what Anthony can do off the ball or on the ball, but off the dribble, the types of things he can create is just something the team hasn't had a lot of. I think Malcolm Brogdon has been fantastic in various ways, but it's just a different way that he plays off the ball screen than Anthony. Anthony is definitely the most feared of all the Blazers players when he's playing off the bounce with the ball screen. So I'm just so excited and, like I said, intrigued to see what does that dynamic turn into to go along with what we've been seeing defensively.
Yeah, and you get 48 minutes of either Malcolm or Ant on the court, probably. I mean, they might split it up so it's a little bit of Scoot and Shea, but like you get more and more minutes with a someone who can really score on their own in the league. And like you said, like the Blazers have, when they've shot it well over the last 2 weeks, they've been in every game. And they've been good enough on defense to hold even really, other than OKC game where it just nothing worked. They've pretty much been in games since the opening weekend of the season, including holding a really high powered offense like Indiana to well below their season average and well below their sort of how they want to play. So like, if they could just have more minutes of high level offense, which if nothing else, Anthony Simons seems to provide 35 minutes of high level offense. He's good on that end for sure. Even without checking the box that you mentioned with defense, that's going to help.
Yeah. And even if Anthony's not making shots, he's going to be defended the same way. So Anthony could be ice cold, but he's still going to draw two on pick and roll.
Yep.
He's still going to stretch the defense out to 35 feet. So I'm not even expecting him to come in and be on fire right away. If he is, I'm not shocked by it. But even if he's not, it's still going to open up a whole different dimension than this team has had. So I just want to see, what does that look like now where DeAndre Ayton can catch the ball in the middle of the floor with tons of space? He's already proven he's a great mid-range shooter. What does the defense decide to do? Are they rotating up? Are they flying up extra high to take that pass away and then possibly giving up a lob on the backside to Tamani or Shaden or something? Like, what all does this mean? So that's what I just can't wait to see.
Yeah, conceivably, you could also put like lineups together with Brogdon and Shaedon Sharpe and Jeremy Grant, where you have 4 shooters and can run a spread pick and roll with competent shooters. And the thing about one of the big reasons that I think DeAndre Ayton has kind of struggled to find consistent offense is that he is playing in a crowd. And that's just like, he can shoot it and he's has a really good mid-range touch and he makes quick decisions going up in the mid-range. But he could use more space and more time in the post, and he could use more space and more time to roll. And having Ant back, you could put like not a lot of lineups with shooting, but certainly a specific lineup, particularly now that Matisse Thybulle looks like he's like an above average NBA shooter. Way to go, Tease. Like, you could put lineups out there that can defend and shoot and have a real pick and roll threat. Like, I recognize on here that, and I'll say it to my listeners, like, I recognize the Blazers have the worst offense in the NBA. So I'm talking about baby steps, right? I'm talking about getting up to like where you can play 20 minutes of something that looks like average to above average NBA offense. And I think they can get there with certain groupings. They're going to be light on shooting and light on creation regardless.
Yes. Here's my thing though with that, Mike. Do they have the worst offense if Anthony has been playing? I know every team's not healthy completely, but losing that specific piece is different than had the Blazers lost 2 of their wings on the offensive end. I'm not so sure they have one of the worst offenses if Ant is in the lineup, just because of the things I really believe it opens up. Now we'll see. We'll see what the things look like, but we've already gotten a chance to see the difference of when Malcolm Brogdon and Scoot returned to the lineup. Just those additions at the point guard spot revamped this team offensively from what they were doing before when Shaden was playing 40 minutes and running point. So that's how I believe they're looking at it right now. They don't feel like we really have the worst offense in the league. I know the stats say that, but they know when they plug that dude back into the lineup, things should change quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the other teams that are way down. There's Detroit and Memphis and San Antonio, and it's young teams and teams that can't shoot. And the Blazers are that, but they're getting back one of their most veteran players, despite being 24. He's an old 24, and a heck of a shooter, And I think that's the difference.
Mike, would you agree, Mike, that of those teams you just mentioned, none of them have as dynamic of a piece at the point guard spot as Anthony Simons?
Well, I mean, John Morant, but yeah. Yeah.
But I'm saying John's not playing.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
The current numbers. Yeah.
Sohan and Trey Jones, that's not it. I really like Cade Cunningham, but he doesn't have the shooting, the scary 30-foot shooting ability. He's more Luka Doncic than he is Damian Lillard, right? That's like in terms of comps. That's really high praise for Cade, but he's, they don't have that. And then like, you get to the Chicago and Utah, Toronto. These are teams without dynamic lead guards to kind of run the whole. That's the bottom of the NBA, the league in offense. Like, yes, you need a really good guard to get it going.
Yes, and all I'm trying to say is those teams, except for John Morant, but those teams have had their point guards available. Their point guards have been a part of their lineups, which hasn't been the case with Anthony. So that's why I'm saying the Blazers, to me, they're not really, last place, but we will see. That's why we play the game.
I think it is a pretty safe bet that Anthony Simons will help a lot on offense. Like I am willing to follow you down that path. Yeah, I'm willing to follow you on that. Let's talk about a couple of the young guys. I want to talk about Shea and I want to talk about Scoot. That's what we'll do in the second segment. Join us there, won't you? Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and they want to give you some free money for getting involved with the fun. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to get involved today. Here's how it works. You place one $5 bet on any team to win on the money line. $5 money line bet. That's an outright victory for any team in any sport or whatever you want to do. Once you win that, you get $150 in bonus bets to win with. So whether you want to bet with your heart and bet on your beloved Portland Trailblazers, or whether you want to get involved in NFL season as we head down the stretch and into the playoffs, place a money line bet. Get your $150 in bonus bets and then bet on everything. Like whatever you want, from spreads to player props to futures bets. You can live bet games all weekend during the NFL Sunday or during each evening during the NBA slate. Whatever you want to do, you're going to find it on FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. All right, still chatting here with Lamar Hurd. You've heard him on the Trailblazers broadcast for many moons. He's having fun. He's breaking down the game. He's got a front row seat to watching some of the youngsters improve. I think he's had better seats than probably all you listeners are watching Shaedon Sharpe get better at basketball. Shaden was overtaxed at one point this season. Like, he's just playing too many minutes, and the ask was really too big for sort of what he was asked to do on both ends of the court for him to succeed. The ask has gotten smaller, and Shaedon Sharpe has gotten better. He's looked really good the last couple games. What have you seen from him, and what kind of sticks out when you watch his game and watch his improvement?
Him getting to the free throw line, just having the ball in his hands more and figuring out ways to get to the free throw line, which I still think he's got a ways to go. Like, there's so much ground. I think he can still cover and get into the line, because I feel like Shaden knows how high he jumps, but also doesn't fully know how tough it is for people to deal with, not only how high he jumps, but how far from the rim he can jump. Because there's so many times where he drives and he takes off from like 5 feet beyond the restricted area, or, a few feet beyond, and it catches a lot of the shot blockers off guard. And just doing that, like, he'll meet people at the rim while hanging in the air. Like, he's already been in the air for a few seconds, and then they'll jump and he'll meet them, and then there's a foul. And I'm not certain that he knows how troublesome that's been for defenders. He might know. I'm just not certain that he does. Just like I don't know, and I think people really close to Shaden will tell you the same thing. I don't think he knows how hard he is to guard in certain situations. And how much more assertive he can be. Like, I was just talking to somebody close to Shaden last week, and he said he had to tell Shaden about some record he had just broken. It wasn't the 1,000 points as a Blazer, the youngest Blazer for 1,000 points. There was something else he did, and I can't remember what it was. But he said he told Shaden, and Shaden had no clue what was going on. He said, because Shaden just plays the games, he goes home and gets to work. They'll get extra work in, whatever, but then he's right back at the gym. He doesn't even process some of these things. Like, he doesn't even, some nights, like, he knows who he's going up against, but like, it doesn't matter to him. He doesn't give somebody a different level of respect because they're this person in the league. To him, he's just showing up to the arena to play his basketball game. And then he's going on about his business. So I think he can get to the free throw line even more. But I like how, at times when he's looked around the lineup and he's seen at times, and he still doesn't do this enough to me, where he's looked and said, I got to be the one right now. I'm looking around. I see who they have me on the floor with, and that is no disrespect to the other players on the floor. It's about roles. The other players' roles isn't the same as Shaden. Shaden, your role is to go get the ball right now and go do something with it. Like, I remember there's a play at Cleveland in the second half. It's late in the game. It's a tight game. And Jabari Walker ends up with the ball in his hands. And I don't remember how he ended up, but the shot clock is winding down. Shaden's on the other side of the floor. Jabari throws a shot up, and I think it's either a shot clock violation or a turnover happens. and Coach Billups is ripping into Shaden. And he's telling him, don't ever leave him in that position again. And Shaden does that sometimes. And it's not even on purpose. It's just, he's just watching the game. He's watching the game develop, whereas he does not have that luxury to do that anymore. He's got to be the person. They got to watch him. And so that's what I want to see more from him, because he's good enough to take that on. And to Shaden's credit, when Coach Billups was getting on him about it, he did look at him and say, my fault. I got you. Yeah. And then we saw kind of how he ended that game against Cleveland.
And against Utah, he comes back in with 7 minutes left and they're trailing, and they run a play for him right away, right? They got him like a little action to drive to get to his right hand, and he finishes, and it's a nice play. And then he comes down the next time and takes a step back three. He says, okay, this is me. Like, this is me. I'm going to go. Like, I'm, yeah. And I mentioned on the show, it's like, I don't really care about whether that step back goes in or not. The important thing is that he attacked, saw the defense, read it, and said, you're going to go under. You're below the free throw line. That's stupid. See ya. And got himself into a shot he can make. And he took that shot with a down 6, and knowing that, like, it's time. I have to take over and I have to get in go mode, because. And then he had to play late in overtime, and you noticed it. I would watch the game myself, and I said, shoot it. And he passed it up, and it ended up being the Tumani shot clock violation 3. But you said on the broadcast, like, I bet the Blazers bench wants him to shoot that. It's like, yeah. And that's like the little tweak. It's one of the things that this is maybe like damning a little bit, but it's like one of the things I'm hopeful about Shaden's game is that there's some stuff on the table for him. Like, there's some easy stuff on the table for him. He could finish a little bit better at the rim, and he could just be more aggressive. And if you do, like, the finishing is a skill thing, the aggressive is a mindset thing. And like, he could check the mindset thing, and like, he could just be, 5% better each night, because he would understand what is, like you said, what is being asked of him as opposed to asked of most young players.
Yeah, I think that's just an acceptance thing that he is working through, accepting that, this is you. Like, a lot of players say, I just want to win. I don't care how many points I end up in this game with. And I really think Shaden really feels that way. I really do. Even with all the praise he's gotten already early in his career, he's fine sitting over there on the right wing while Jabari has the ball, and let him make a play. If the ball goes in, he's just as happy. And so I think that's the next thing for him, is like that full acceptance of, like, no, when your coach is saying he sees the potential for a Devin Booker type career for you, then he's telling you there's no more time to wait. You got to go get it, and it starts right now. And even with that, man, it's been fun to watch. I'm glad for Shaden that he gets to be back more in his natural position, because I feel like he was getting drained playing all those minutes at the one spot. And so that's another thing with Ant coming back that I'm just so excited to see, because also we haven't seen a whole lot of Shaden off the ball, running off of screens, which I have mentioned on broadcast at times. I really think just because of how he moves, at some point in his career, if his career keeps going up, one element of his game that we're going to see just a significant jump in is how efficient he is coming off of screens. Like that step back that you mentioned. Some guys, when they do a step back, you can see the demonstrative push off of a foot to jump back behind the line. If you go back and look at that, Shaden, he glided behind the line.
Yeah, he doesn't need a lot of, he generates a lot of power. Yeah.
It wasn't like a push and a high bunny hop. It was just a step and a glide back. And not everybody does those little things. Like, it's those kind of movements when I think about him running off of a screen and having to stop, put on the brakes and flare, or continue the curl, or stop right behind the screen. His stop and start movements is as elite as his jumping. When we see him go and jump and do a highlight dunk, to me, the way he runs off of screens is the same thing. We just haven't seen a ton of reps with it. We haven't seen it with Anthony in the lineup. So that's another thing I just can't wait to see progress in his career.
Yeah, really early in the season, there was a game, it's like maybe the first week, where they ran like a series of pin downs for him late. And first one, he curled to the rim and got a bucket. Second one, he stepped behind the 3-point line, got a bucket. Third, he caught it. They came out, jumped. He made the pass. And it's like,
I remember that.
Yeah. It was like on the left-hand side at a road game, but it was like, it's like a series of pin downs for him. And he took 3 different options off the same action.
Yes.
And it's like, that's it. That's it for you. It's like, be scary, be multiple. Right. And because they're afraid of you curling to the rim. The NBA had a highlight package waiting for Shaedon Sharpe to do a big dunk. Like Shaedon Sharpe crams all over Walker Kessler, and the NBA sends out a YouTube video of Shaedon Sharpe's best posters of his career. That thing had to be waiting in the hopper, Lamar. That thing was
really?
like, oh yeah, they put out like a best posters of Shaedon Sharpe's career, and it came out like late, like Saturday night after the game. So that they had it, and they were just like, hey, he's going to get one this year, and we're going to put that bad boy out on social, and we're going to the NBA was ready for it. They wanted it. Wow. So like they know if the NBA social team knows, you're on the scouting report. So the fear on the curl, the fear on the step back, and then the playmaking off that. Let's talk a little bit about Scoot. He has, the most important thing about his season so far is that he wears goggles. I think that's like the most significant part, is that he's got an incredibly fun look. He's young and it's taken him, he looks like a teenager playing a lot. Where have you seen him improve from, night 1 to night 20 as we get going?
This is another one of those things where I don't know if this is the case, because Scoot hasn't said it, and I don't know that if he would even say it, but I felt like in some of his early games, he was trying to show, not necessarily to critics, it might have been just to his teammates, it might have been to his own, inner circle, I don't know, but it felt like he was trying to show that he can knock down jump shots at a high level in the NBA game, because, that's the biggest knock on him coming in, is how does he shoot it? His shot's not consistent and all that. And I feel like he's gotten away from that. Even again, I don't even know for sure if it was a thing. Just watching him it kind of looked like there's a part of him that, even if it's just to put his teammates at ease and show his teammates, I got y'all. Even though Ant's out, I got y'all. I can hold it down at this position. I can knock down this shot. It just feels like he's just kind of falling back on some instincts a little bit more, letting the game kind of come to him, looking for openings as they develop, not necessarily trying to force openings. And it looks like he's just been in more of a rhythm, which is all totally natural, first of all.
Right.
Like, he's rookie. He's just getting the ball in his hands. So I'm not even saying like any of this is abnormal. I just feel like throughout his progression, throughout his watching film, he's a great student of the game. He has seen more and seen opportunities where he can pass up a jump shot and just put the ball on the floor and dance with it a little bit, like he did late in the second half against Utah. And he ended up throwing a pass to Dwap Reed, the left-handed pass, after passing up a jump shot and just playing his game. And then there's other times where he's felt like, no, I'm just going to catch and shoot this. I'm not, and it's not to prove anything. I'm just going to shoot it because I got enough space. So getting through all that noise of all that stuff, I feel like he's made it to the other side of the noise, and he's just easing into his play a little bit more. But even with that, I feel like he's been tenacious defensively, but also foul prone, which he's got to work through. But I feel like he's had a presence defensively that has aided Tumani's efforts, where whoever Tumani's guarding, when Scoot takes turns, that other person still feels the same type of pressure. So even if Scoot's on the bench with foul trouble, Scoot has done his work to make Tumani's job a little easier. And then his energy has been contagious, Mike. On the floor.
Oh yeah, he's the best on the team at bringing that. I think they kind of needed a rah-rah guy, and I thought Ish Wainwright might be a rah-rah guy, but if you're hurt and you're new, it's hard to be that guy. Scoot absolutely sets that tone. They needed that sort of
whether he's playing well or not, and not everybody has that, and that's a skill set in itself that you get paid for. So as his play on the floor continues to progress, his leadership has been there. His teammates, they feed off of it. Like Scoot's plays, even though it's like 2 points, it feels like 3 or 4. Like how Coach Billups always talks about, Dame's threes, how they used to be loud threes. Scoot's buckets are loud. They're all loud. It gets his teammates a different energy level. So that's been good. And I feel like the passing for him, as he continues to process the NBA game and things that are open, like I can think of 2 or 3 passes in the Utah game where he's coming down the court and he's reading everything in real time. He's knowing where the help is coming from ahead of time, and then he makes the pass. Like Shaden got a three on the right wing in the first half, and it was Scoot reading Dwap Reith, I believe it was, running down the middle, and he's seeing, okay, who's helping on that? And he's doing the calculation with the numbers. There's a shooter in the right corner to the right of where Shaden is running, and Scoot is knowing, all right, there's no way that dude guarding my corner guy is running up. So I'm just going to give it to Shea. And he did. And it was a wide open shot, and Shea made it. And whether or not Shea made it, it was the right play. And Scoot's been making a lot more of those reads quicker. And that's where I'm saying, like, he's not trying to force maybe a drive down the middle when the drive's not there. He's just allowing himself to read the game as it's happened.
Yeah, I thought his best stretch was the third and fourth quarter against it was against Cleveland. I think he went 0 for 4 and missed two threes, but he played awesome. He played 7 great minutes. He played with purpose. He played with pace. He found his teammates. Even when they missed shots, it was the right pass. He got into the teeth of the defense, which is his strength. Like, that's what, like, do what you do best. You mentioned him, like, trying to kind of prove it a little bit with the jump shooting. You know what you do best, Scoot? You get the ball in your right hand and you attack the glass. Go do it, because they're going to be scared of you when you do what you do best. This is a Mike D'Antoni thing. What's the thing you do best? Do it every time down the court. Like that. That's, and I truly believe that in NBA basketball, to keep it simple, like, he's been better at that. And he does the turbo Steve Nash, which I love. He goes the full baseline, but he goes the full baseline at Scoot speed. And he turbo Nashes it. And on those turbo Nash passes, he can go to corner. He can whip it to the wing. He can whip to the opposite wing, because he's really good with one-handed passer. Like, I don't think Scoot has had the moment where it's like, oh, okay, but he's had the flashes where you can see it coming. And I think we're just a matter of time before he has one of those games where it's like, oh yeah, this is what we were promised. Like, this is what we were promised. You also mentioned him on defense, and I'm maybe stealing from Tom Haberstroh, so I apologize, Tom. This is why they pay you the big bucks, but Scoot is in the 97th percentile on defensive estimated plus minus on dunksandthrees.com. EPM, estimated plus minus, is probably of the alphabet stats, it's my preferred alphabet stat. But the defensive EPM, 97th percentile. That's, I don't know if that matches what my eyeballs see, but if you say that you've seen him get after it on defense, this is kind of trending that way. I mean, that's trending that way.
He's it really excites me to think about if the jump shot does start falling for him, because I kind of feel like it will. Like, I don't feel like he has a broken shot. I know there's it kind of varies, off the dribble and sometimes the catch and shoot. But just with his mindset and how I know he works on things and how he looks at things, and he has like a real confidence, not like a fake bravado, not like I'm gonna say the right thing here. Like, he has a super high level confidence where I think he's going to get all that right. When I think about that combining with what he does defensively, that's where it's the special player that Joe Cronin talked about when he drafted him. Like, I can see that. But defensively, he defends with so much force right now, and he gets whistled on a lot of things that I don't know he'll get whistled on as a second-year player.
Oh no, Lamar, they whistle everyone the same in the NBA.
Yeah, okay. So when that comes into effect too, like, I think he'll be a dangerous point guard. Like, when Coach Billups talks about him wanting his team to be a team that people don't want to play against, I can truly see that. I can see that for real now. The way Tumani defends, the way I know Scoot defends, other guys in the lineup, we'll see kind of, what this roster looks like as time goes on. But I can actually see now what that might truly look like, where in years past, Mike, when we would go and play Miami, every time we would go play the Miami Heat, it felt different right away, because Josh Richardson is picking you up full court, or Bam Adebayo is over here pressuring big, switching out on the guards. Like, there was a different defensive presence we always feel whenever Miami's on the floor. And I can now see the vision of the Blazers being that kind of team where people talk about you in a similar fashion, where when people talk about the Miami Heat, they always talk about how the Heat play hard, or how, for years, like, Miami plays with a different physicality. Like, I can see that same thing for the Blazers.
Let's talk about the defense. Come back in the third segment and close the show talking a little about that because it looks like it's good. And you just mentioned it. Let's talk about that to close the show. Join us in the third segment, won't you? Today's show is also brought to you by Gametime, the spot, the number one spot that there is for last-minute tickets. Blazers come back after a long road trip on Friday against the Mavericks. And say you're sitting at work, sitting at your desk, sitting wherever you work. It's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday. Tip-off is 7 o'clock. You feel like you've procrastinated a little bit too long. Well, not to worry, because the Gametime app is here. It's perfect for the procrastinators among us because it's the number one spot for last minute tickets. I like Gametime because it's super simple, right? You download the app, you click, 4 clicks and you got tickets emailed right to you. But it also, they got no nonsense. So many other ticket places are going to give you hidden fees, printed home fees, convenience fees. What you see is what you get on Gametime. If it says it's going to cost you $61 to sit in those seats, it's going to cost you $61 to sit in those seats. So here's what you do. You download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Use that redemption code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDON NBA. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Still chatting with television analyst for the Portland Trail Blazers, H-Town's finest, the pride of Corvallis, Oregon, Lamar Hurd. We saved the real intros for the third segment. Okay. Well, so the Blazers are, top 10 in defensive rating, depending on where you look. The Cleaning the Glass has them 12th, but whatever it is, they're a good defensive team. Whether they're an elite defensive team, I think that'll be, we'll figure it out in the future. That's why they play a cajillion NBA games. It's a meritocracy for the most part. What about it feels sustainable to you? Like, what is the most sustainable aspect of their defense?
The commitment to full court pressure. It's not something all NBA teams see. I think it caught the Indiana Pacers not off guard, but maybe made them uncomfortable.
Yep.
When the Blazers won at Indiana, guys that truly want to defend. I feel like even if Coach Billups told Tumani, I need you to back up. I need you to give him a few feet. Tumani would probably say no and still want to do it. Where coach would have to tell him again. It's the reverse of a coach telling the team, wake up. We got to step up. We got to choke the passing lanes. We got to pressure. Don't let him ball reversal. I feel like he'd have to tell DeAndre, I need you to back up off that big more. I don't need you to have active hands in the passing lane. That's why DA's been one of the leaders in deflections and steals because he's been active. Scoot, we talked about Scoot. They got to tell him, Scoot, I need you to ease off a little bit. There's a team-wide culture where the conversation is back up rather than press forward.
Right.
With Matisse, I think Matisse is as good as, if not the best, off-ball disruptor in the NBA.
It's an art. It's really fun to watch him play because he is reading and baiting you. I don't know of other players that play like him. Like I don't know. And he's saying he's like, I'm going to jump topside because that will convince you to fake a backdoor cut and then try to get me back on the top side. And I'm not going anywhere. I'm triple faking. He's really fun. He's really fun.
Yes, exactly. It's what we see on offense. Like the same way people do multiple things on offense, whether it's catching a jab step series. And, we play it back and we say, okay, look, that jab made that dude bounce to the right. Then he went left. That's exactly what you just explained about Matisse defensively. He did something that made the offense then do something rather than him reacting to them. He got what he wanted out of it, and then he attacked. So I just really feel like there is a true team-wide culture that's been adopted, and that's a credit to me, both Coach Billups and Joe Cronin in the front office because of the personnel that they've had. This is Joe Cronin, again, giving Coach Billups the type of lineup that he said he wanted. And then Coach Billups showing, okay, now that I have these types of pieces, here's what I can get these guys to do defensively. And then I feel like this is another one of those things that is intriguing is to me, they have not shown what kind of variety they can now deploy with that defense. And here's what I mean by that. You know this. The Blazers have played a ton of zone in the past.
Yeah, they played multiple. Yeah, but
yes. And to me, the best zones are the ones that have man-to-man principles. And in years past, the Blazers, from time to time, they might show a little bit of good man-to-man principle in their zone, but for the most part, you had two guys guarding the ball. There's established gaps. The offense, there are one or two passes, and there's a wide open shot, and they're looking around like, why is that dude wide open? I feel like because of how good this group is right now in their man-to-man, I feel like we would see the best zone from them that we've seen yet. Especially,
and they dropped the zone for the most part. They said, listen.
That's what I'm saying, Mike. That's what I'm saying. So if they bring the zone back at certain times, I want to see, now, what does this zone look like with this point guard at point of attack that loves to take on matchups? Tumani, imagine Tumani at the top of the zone. Okay,
with Jeremy Grant and Matisse roaming too. It's fun.
Yes, with Matisse roaming. Remember, Matisse won 2 Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year awards, primarily sitting in a 2-3 zone at the University of Washington. Right. So imagine that dude with some help that attacks the defensive end the same way he does. So I don't know if we'll see that this season, but when I think about the defense and the different options that might still be in front of them, that excites me because I want to see, what does that look like? What does it look like? What does it look like, Mike, when the Blazers do something different, when they do a 1-2-2, or or when they go back to, we haven't seen this a lot yet this season. I don't even know if we've seen this for one possession. Their full court press, the soft press to keep everything in front and then fall back into the zone. Like, we haven't seen a whole lot of that yet.
Maybe the first week, but basically, and credit to the staff, credit to Roy Rogers for knowing, like, hey, we stink at this. Like we like, let's, and it's like, and it's a hard, like, the NBA is a lot of people who have a lot of pride. And so you're like, this is the right plan. My guys need to execute it. Well, the Blazers have spent almost 2 full seasons trying to install this zone. They spend a week of this season and it looks bad. And they said, our personnel is good enough to be good on defense. This doesn't work. Let's do something different. And they have one of the, they have an above average, and depending on where you look at it, a top 10 defense in the league. Like, credit to Billups and Rogers for getting together and saying, this doesn't work. Yeah. Let's do a thing that works. And now they're good at it. And they force turnovers, like the way that Billups talked about when he got the job. It's happening. And I think a lot of it is that he's not playing a 6'5" small forward very much anymore. I am curious to see what comes back when Ant plays, and they do have to play a little bit of Shaedon Sharpe at small forward and what it looks like. But like, with all due respect to Josh Hart, who plays, he's one of the easiest guys to root for in the league. He plays incredibly hard and plays his butt off every night. And it's just, it's so simple to root for him.
Yep.
Asking him to be a small forward next to 2 guards who are under 6'4" is unfair to him. You just don't have the plus length. Now, to be able to play lineups that consistently are long. And Toumani Camara, I've said this on the show, there's nothing sneaky about Toumani Camara's athleticism. It's up in your grill. He is making it tough on you. And then to have Jeremy Grant behind him, where he's not being asked to be a point of attack defender, you get a better version of Jeremy Grant. DeAndre Ayton, they haven't figured out really what's going to work for him on offense, but he brings it on defense. And that's a big credit to him for continuing to play at that level. You get Matisse off the bench. They have the parts that make it work. They've played some of the really good offenses recently. Indiana's really good. Oklahoma put it on them. So I don't like OKC game. I think there's going to be those, but Milwaukee is an elite offense. Phoenix is an elite offense. Indiana is the best offense in the league. And they held those teams, maybe not like completely in check, but they took them out of what they wanted to do. Phoenix wanted to run up on them, right? Phoenix was running up the score in those in-season tournament games. They couldn't run up the score on the Blazers. They won by 8 or 12 or whatever it was. Like, I have been skeptical of saying, like, oh, hey, they're going to be awesome all year long. But the further we get into it, the more it seems real. And I think it seems real because, like you said, there's a culture of it being the right thing to do.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. And I think it's fair to be a little skeptical, especially looking back as recent as last season. They got off to a pretty good start defensively last season too. There were some things that looked good. and then it fell off. I just feel like this season, the difference to me is when you look at the group individually.
Yep.
There is more of a true of just wanting to defend, wanting to get after it. Like, I don't feel like last season, if coach said, pull back, fellas, I don't feel like there would have been a rebuttal to that. And that's not necessarily a knock on that group, even from last season, because most NBA teams play that way. Most NBA teams are not picking you up either the full length of the floor or at half court. So that's not the normal way. But I go back to the intentionality of guys that were drafted, guys that were acquired to play a certain way, and they are doing it. And now that they found success in it too, Mike, I feel like that's another thing that they can't go back now. Like, imagine trying to tell Tumani, it's not working, picking him up full. Tumani's like, hold on, what? Have you not been watching the last 19 games? Like, you can't convince him otherwise now. So it's almost too late. And my last point on this, I agree fully with you that credit to the Blazers coaching staff of seeing the zone wasn't working the way they wanted to originally, not the way the man-to-man was. They saw our man-to-man is pretty solid. But because of how solid it is now, to me, like, I'm not the coach, but part of what we do as we analyze the game is we got to put ourselves in different people's shoes. If I'm the player here, if I'm the official here, if I'm the coach here, if I'm the opposing coach, what would I do? And when I think about this team as a coaching mindset, I say we're really starting to understand these man-to-man principles the way I want to. And I know how confusing a good zone defense that abides by man-to-man principles and doesn't get offset, doesn't get to a point where we got two on the ball, doesn't get to a place where there's miscommunications, how confusing that can be for an offense that, as you are aware, typically NBA offenses are not practicing a lot of zone stuff. So imagine this Blazer defense being locked in, focused, in the right spots, going against an offense that has not prepared for them. I just see some potential there. I don't know if we'll see it this season. I don't know if they'll go back to it or not, but I am intrigued by the possibility of what that might look like.
Yeah, I think you mentioned like that it's worked so far. So much of the NBA is getting guys there's a couple check boxes, but it's like, do you have a good plan? Do you have the right personnel to execute the plan? Does the personnel that you have buy into the plan? Mm-hmm. I think the Blazers, for the first time, maybe in the Billups era, can check all of those boxes. Good plan, personnel to execute the plan, and guys who are executing that plan like they want to. And I think like a lot of the challenge of how the NBA is relentless. This is like an incredibly long break. Like you get 3 days off, Lamar. This is incredible. It's like,
which isn't even like a full 3 because we travel tomorrow. Like,
and you travel the day before, you get 1 day off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the moment we're en route to the airport, like we're back at it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's like exactly. And you guys are a stayover team now, so you're not traveling all overnight. You're like, you sleep in a hotel and come in the next day. So really, you had 1 day off, and you chose to record Locked On Blazers. So that was your own. That's a you problem, buddy. You should not have responded to that text message. You should have ignored that one. But like, it's relentless, right? And so much of the relentless is just like, do the guys buy into it? And the Blazers so far seem really like invested in it. And I think that is, if nothing else, that is a really good sign for whatever they become down the line. Lamar, thank you so much for joining the program. It's always a treat to have you. So, and I listen to you on the broadcast, and sometimes I have to steal your stats, like 5 straight games of 40+% from 3 and other things. So keep bringing it so my job gets a little bit easier.
I'll do what I can. Thanks for having me, man.
Dear listeners, come back tomorrow. We got a fun one, another interview set up that actually I don't have it confirmed. So let me just tell you, probably another interview in this space that you're not going to want to miss. We do it 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.